Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's edition for Friday, the 24th of August, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar index. Dollar actually just pushing a little bit higher again. So this was a counter trend move, short term downside weakness, but that medium term trend kicking in. If we look at the euro, we see it just coming off the top slightly on that dollar strength. And against the yen, the dollar is actually motoring. We tend to see the dollar improving against the yen before other currencies. Looking at sterling, sterling fell away a bit on that dollar strength, moving back into short-term weak zone. So looking a bit bearish there. And against the euro, sterling sinking lower, testing to make really multi-month highs, probably the lowest level this year against the euro we're about to see on sterling. So looking very bearish there. Against the Swiss franc, also sinking lower. And against the Aussie dollar, it's actually just pulling back a bit now. The Aussie dollar has been weak on the political woes that are happening there, the change of prime minister. Looking at Bitcoin, just holding steady at around the $6,500 level. Not much change there. And overnight, the U.S. markets, looking at stocks, S&P was down slightly, the 500 index. The Nasdaq was fairly flat, down just very slightly. The Dow also just down about a third of a percent. And the Russell 2000, the broader-based index, was also down about a third of a percent. So stocks just falling in the US across the board. The future this morning up slightly on the S&P. On the Nasdaq, E-mini up about 0.2%. So it does look like we might open slightly higher in the US. UK market fairly flat this morning, down slightly. The mid caps in the UK looking better on the short-term chart and up very slightly this morning. The Nasdaq the DAX actually fairly flat this morning. No real changes there, and the CAC Current much the same as well. Looking at Japan overnight, we're up about 0.6% on the 400 index there, and the Hang Seng was actually down 0.5%. China trade-wise still hanging over the market, and Shanghai little change, but still looking very bearish on all three time frames. The Indian market looking strong on all three time frames still. Up was down slightly overnight, and the Australian market taking the political woes into its stride, having really fallen over the last few days already on that. Brent crude this morning is up 0.75%, looking stronger, $75.30, so looking pretty strong there. And we've got 75.80 as the next short-term target. 68.39 on WTI, also looking strong, so crude prices pushing higher. US nat gas sitting at $2.98, so pushing back for that $3 level, so that's quite key. Gold just struggled at that 1200 level, so we're still sitting at 1189, just holding on, but prices back into bearish territory. And silver was selling off quite substantially yesterday, is also just still in bearish territory. US 10-year yield sitting at 2.83%, not much change there. And if we look at some of the tech majors, Apple has really been driving higher over recent days, and it's been fairly flat for the last week, but we are pushing higher again. Overnight was up 0.2%. Amazon really pushing now for that $2,000 level, sitting at 1900. So fairly flat over the last week or two, but really gearing up to go for another push higher. Google sitting lower and looking a bit bearish on the short-term chart. Facebook coming back to test this 170 support level, so not really showing any signs of recovery there. Microsoft actually sitting at 107.50, was up slightly overnight, but still in bearish territory on the short-term chart. Netflix, we've commented on, has down another 1.5% overnight, just looking a little bit worrying, that Netflix chart. And Tesla has been in the news a lot lately as well. They were down another 0.5% overnight and still in bearish territory on the short term. That's it for today. Until Monday, happy charting. See you then.